Hello class, this is Mike Nolan and this is my multimedia discussion board for week 2 of MPA 594, the Comprehensive Exam Seminar. So the two concepts that I chose for this assignment are the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We know by now that without the Constitution, essentially our country would be lawless. Some of the functions of the Constitution as they relate to public administration is the Constitution provides for provisions of scope for good governance. It's setting out the doctrine of the separations of powers within the government. It's one of its purposes as well is to establish justice and to ensure domestic tranquility and to promote the general welfare of citizenry, which we know is an important aspect of public administration, and to provide for the common defense, not only nationally but locally through state and in addition to federal and municipal safeties. And we kind of understand that with the Bill of Rights is that those first 10 amendments to our Constitution, some of the more important Bill of Rights or amendments as they relate to public administration is the right to life, the right to freedom of speech and expression, the rights of citizens to have privacy, the freedom of religion, belief, and opinion, freedom of servitude, and not so much an issue now, but freedom from slavery and forced labor, and equality and freedom from discrimination. So, how do those two concepts relate to municipal policing? Well, in terms of policing, it would probably be more efficient to say how the terms don't relate to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights when it comes to policing, because so many aspects of policing have direct reference to the Constitution and Bill of Rights. The Constitution is what's granted the police powers to the states and the municipalities, and these powers include the right to regulate behaviors and enforce order within their territory, which is typically either for state, federal, or local municipal law enforcement agencies. And the purpose of that is for the betterment of the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants. This is specifically granted under the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Now more so than ever, local, state, and federal policing agencies have been under the spotlight because with the use of social media, cameras, videoing, acts that are in violation of the Constitution or the Bill of Rights are being videoed and put out there for mass audiences to see, and that definitely brings a negative light to the law enforcement agencies and is counterproductive to the actual mission of the agency and what the goals of the organization are. Policing in line with the Constitution must be done in a lawful and constitutional manner, but in a way that maintains the consent of the people. Because policing these municipal, state, federal jurisdictions is done through consent. Now, I know it seems odd that someone would consent to receive a ticket or consent to be policed, but it is through consent of the people that they are actually policed, and that is through the Constitution. The two icons that I have here for Power DMS and Lexipol, these are two platforms that the Santa Ana Police Department uses to ensure training, both constitutional law and the amendments to ensure that officers are up to date in maintaining in policy as it relates to constitutional issues and Bill of Rights issues. Excuse me. In the past, in earlier times in the Santa Ana Police Department and many other agencies, I'm sure, officers could get away with having cursory knowledge of some constitutional laws, the right to someone's search and seizure or the freedom of expression of speech. But now we're definitely in a time where that cursory knowledge is just not going to be enough, and ignorance won't fly. And with technology, it's made issues such as the right to privacy increasingly sophisticated, and citizens are now more aware and eager to hold police officers accountable for perceived violations. And this is why these tools like Power DMS and Lexipol aid in continuing the understanding and the applicability of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution today. So, as I indicated, both of the concepts of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, I feel that they both hold true to today's current public administration and do not need any modification. One item that I do feel needs modification or could have benefited from some modification is the Pendleton Act of 1883. And we know and understand that also as the Civil Service Reform Act. Which is a federal law within the United States of America, which stipulated that government jobs were to be awarded based on merit, and this kind of got rid of the spoils system. And so this law made it illegal to fire or demote or not hire an employee based on political preference or motivation outside the scope of what would be a true hiring practice. Where I think this could use modification is that the Pendleton Act had a lot to do with the hiring of federal employees, but it had nothing to do with their firing. And that has become an issue definitely of recent times where it's come under scrutiny. In a recent study I looked at from the USA Today, and according to the study, the federal government had fired 0.55 of its workers within the budget year that ended in September 30th of 2011. That job security rate for federal workers puts the job security rate at 99.43% within that year, almost 100%. I don't know about you, but I know that there's probably at least 1 to 5% of our coworkers that maybe don't belong or would be better suited to work at a different organization. So to say that nearly almost 100% of federal workers were not fired or terminated based on that, I think that that's where the Pendleton Act could have used some modification to not only focus on the hiring and the removal of the spoils system, but to map out some clear boundaries for the termination of employees that aren't properly fulfilling their job. So that's my presentation. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to watching your presentations.